Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight. Today I'm going to share with you some top tips around a really tough promotion question. And this question is based on the value of integrity from the Competency and Values Framework. And it goes something like this. Can you tell me about a time when you have challenged someone's inappropriate behavior? Now, we pretty much guarantee that this question is going to get asked for certain forces. Because the spies within those certain forces have already said, yes, this is the question that's being asked. So we know that on some promotion boards, this question is definitely being asked. We practiced this one very recently in the Enforce Advancement group. I'll give you a link to that below. It's a group where you can practice every week for 2 hours, watch all the previous recordings of the practice sessions, get a short course on how to succeed in the interview process, application form process for specialist interviews, promotion boards, and it's just £4.99 a month. You can't say fairer than that, can you? Price of a coffee and a snack. Anyway, in last week's Enforce Advancement group, one of my clients going for a specific force knows they're going to get asked this question, but they were really struggling with it. And after about 45 minutes, we had an awesome answer. Let me share with you. We went from, I have really no idea what I'm going to say if I'm asked that question, to a completely awesome answer. But there was 5 bits of learning that came out of that practice session, and I'm going to share those 5 bits of learning with you now. First one, structure. Structure, structure, structure. If you don't have a structure to your answer, you're going to start going all over the place. And you're going to miss out some important bits as well that link in with things like the NDM. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, we're not being assessed against our ability to utilize the NDM, but you're being assessed by someone who, if it's PC to sergeant, might be a chief inspector or superintendent, they're just as clueless about the CVF as you. So they like it when you talk about things like what you're aiming to achieve and your options. So let's use a structured approach to the sort of questions that start with, can you tell me about a time when, that actually speaks to things that they will find familiar. So forget that star malarkey, because no one talks like that. No one says the task I set myself. Do they? Really? You do? Oh, you're the one. So I advocate something that I've been developing for decades, actually. For over 30 years, I've been helping to support people to pass at interview boards, helping myself to pass at interview boards. And the process I like is one that's called SAL-Q. This stands for situation, where we also talk about the impact of the problem or the challenge. Then we talk, as opposed to task, we talk about what we aim to achieve. And then we can talk about the options we considered and the rationale for choosing the option that we did. We talk about what we did then as part of the action phase, but not just what we did, but importantly, the detail around how we did it. The result, the learning, and then the knowledge and understanding phase, SAL-Q. So have that structure, because there are bits missing, in particular, the aim and options and the how. There was a lot of what I did, but very little how I did it. Secondly, with integrity, if you're challenging an inappropriate comment or inappropriate behavior, give some thought to the mechanics of your challenge and how you actually did that challenge. This is the how of the action phase, because the phrase that was used before the debrief and the actual answer, practice answer, was, I'd give them the opportunity to express their views so I could identify any underlying issues. And that sounds great, doesn't it? I'd give them the opportunity to express any views so I could identify any underlying issues. Sounds fantastic, except how would you do that? I want to be convinced that you can do this and you can replicate this. As a superintendent interviewing you, or chief inspector, I want to be reassured that you can duplicate this. So what I want from you is the mechanics of the challenge. Describe how you did this in such a way that persuades the interviewer that you can duplicate this in the toughest and most challenging of conditions. Third thing, the learning phase. Be specific about the learning in respect of the context of the job that you're talking about. I could have been firmer. I didn't consider the bigger picture. Too woolly, too vague. So we probed that, and we actually extracted some really good learning that would really impress. So you need to be more precise in your learning. That gets back to that how as well. How would you actually, how have you learned? What precisely are you going to do differently next time? The fourth thing, we looked at record keeping. So if you are going to challenge inappropriate behavior, you need to be ensuring that you're utilizing the right force forms for it, that you're following the correct process, and you're not just storing away the fact that you've challenged this person in your little day book. If it's something small, yeah, put it in your day book. But if it's something small that wasn't a big challenge, then why are you giving that as your answer in an interview board? I want to hear about a time that was really challenging and really difficult. And this particular example that was given was one where there should have been a record made of it and there wasn't. So that could be learning. If you've not made a record of it and the force doesn't have a record of it, it's not been recorded on the correct force forms, then mention that as part of your learning. Mention that as part of your learning. And the fifth bit, they're not looking for an awesome constable. They're looking for someone who's going to be an awesome sergeant. So one of the things that we need to consider is whether that challenge of the inappropriate behaviour was an easy one to deal with or whether it was really challenging. Now, this particular individual is working on an awesome team. So their team demonstrates very little, if any, inappropriate behaviour. The only sort of inappropriate behaviour they've ever demonstrated is something that can be dealt with by the raise of an eyebrow. And that's it. Now, you can't really talk about that at an interview board, can you? This particular example is a really good one, but it was a relatively easy challenge in that the individual who's been challenged about their behaviour rolled over and accepted it all. Yeah, you've got me. I shouldn't have done that. I need to do something different next time. So one of the things I want to be persuaded of is that you've got the capability to deal with someone who is going to really dig their heels in and just go, don't know what you're on about, mate. No, your hearing was wrong. You didn't hear that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Where's your proof? Where's your evidence? I didn't say that. Prove it. The bolshy officer who's going to dig their heels in and completely deny everything and anything. The one that's going to be really awkward. The one that's just going to walk out of the room and go off sick. How are you going to deal with that? Now, that's what I want to be persuaded of, that at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, whenever it might be, when the inspector's not around and you're it as the sergeant, that you're the person who's going to be able to get a grip and deal with, in a very supportive way, someone who is blatantly being inappropriate or is saying or doing something which is contrary to the code of ethics or contrary to force guidelines, force policy, whatever it might be. If I'm interviewing you, I want to be persuaded of that. So that might be something to consider in your learning, to say that, of course, this may not come across as a very challenging scenario, but I have given thought now to how I would deal with a more challenging situation, which could be, give some examples, and the way I do this is, because they want to hear that you are consciously competent as a sergeant, that you're consciously competent as a future inspector. They want to hear that you're the person, they want to be persuaded that you're the person who can keep that wheel on in terms of integrity, doing the right thing in difficult or challenging circumstances, even when there's no one watching. So I'll leave you with that, folks. I hope you found it useful. 5 things that emerged from one of our awesome practice sessions. I hope to see you at one of them in the future. Honestly, the learning that comes out of them, magical, fantastic stuff. And it's been helping so many people. We've not had one person who's actually come back to say, I attended these workshops and I've failed my board. We've so far had a 100% success rate, which is brilliant. Well done to everyone who has been working hard and attending those workshops. Great job. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye for now.